Hey y'all, it's Sonya Siobhan here. Um, Thank you for clicking on my video, and I would appreciate it if you liked, shared, subscribed, and leave a comment if you want. I even wore red today to inspire you guys to hit that red subscribe button. Corny, right? I already know, but it is what it is. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the book of Daniel and how it relates to my life. So the book of Daniel starts out where Babylon has taken over Israel and has taken all of its people captive. And among the captives, the people that were captured and taken for prisoners, were Daniel and three of his friends. So it was Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I hope I'm not tearing those names up, but those are the ones that we're talking about right now. So, while they were imprisoned in Babylon, um, they they caught a lot of scrutiny and things because they refused to worship the empire and give up their Jewish identity. They just weren't going to do it. They worshiped God, and they weren't going to allow nobody else to tell them anything different. And um, because of this, it angered the king very much, and he decided that Meshach, Abednego, and Shadrach would be thrown into a fiery furnace because they just refused to bow down. Now, Daniel, he was kind of given a little bit of favor because he was able to interpret dreams. So the king was having these dreams and he needed some interpretation on them. And because Daniel had that ability, he kind of exalted him and showed him favor because he realized that his God that he worshiped was the actual God. So Meshach, Abednego, and what is it, Shadrach? Yeah, they were all thrown into this fiery furnace because they would not bow down to this king's traditions and give up their own way. So he threw them in the furnace, and lo and behold, they came out unscathed without a burn or anything. And to the king's amazement, he was completely amazed and exalted them because he realized that the God that they worshipped was actually God. So later on in the story, um, Daniel, like I said, he was shown a lot of favor because he was able to interpret these dreams that the king was having. So, but later on, after continuing not to worship the king as God, that angered the king, and he sent him into a pit with a roaring lion. Now, Daniel, of course, came out unscathed because he has favor by the Lord. Nothing's going to happen to him. So he came out unscathed. And again, the king exalted him and realized, okay, your God is the true God. So basically, with that story, it's just a message of hope that motivates faithfulness. Basically, you keep your hope despite of persecution, and if you believe in God fully with your whole heart, then he will give you salvation, pretty much. Now I want to go ahead and move on to the story about my own life. Now this story began, I would say, maybe it was over 20 years ago. So I would say maybe 23, 25 years ago, something like that. However, I was going through a domestic violence situation with my children's father, and it was pretty bad, y'all. Like, it was real bad. It was like life or death. Somebody was going to die if somebody didn't do something. So I was that somebody, and I wasn't going to allow this man to like take me out of here. So we have three kids together, and somebody got to be here for these kids. So I decided to pack us up from where we were, and which was here in Toledo. I decided to pack us up and move back to my hometown in South Carolina. And we did that. And while down there, it was a struggle. It was a lot going on. I endured a lot In those 2 years that we lived in South Carolina, I went through a lot of it was like hell on earth. And that's just, that's an understatement, actually. It was pretty bad, y'all. But nevertheless, I endured like I always do. So at this particular time, we were living in a project in South Carolina. We was living in this project. It's called Norris Ridge. Um, for those of you that really know, it's called Highland. It was called Highland before it was called Norris Ridge. So we lived there. And when I tell you this was the epitome of the ghetto, it was the ghetto. Like, y'all remember that song, The Ghetto? Yeah, that type of ghetto. It was like bad. Um, However, I made it home for me and my children. And I never lost my own values and things that I knew were true to me. Now, so this one particular day, during this time, I was, involved in a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean like alcohol. I was drinking alcohol. I was smoking weed. I'm not gonna say drugs because then people misconstrued that and think that I was doing like, drugs, multiple drugs. I was smoking weed and drinking alcohol, and during this time too, I caught myself smoking cigarettes. Don't even know what I was doing. I was never a true cigarette smoker. I was just, I don't know, just doing something. So this one particular night, I laid down to smoke a cigarette, and I was in the bed. It was at nighttime, so I was going to bed. Tired in the bed, and I was smoking a cigarette and fell asleep while smoking the cigarette. And now, the next thing I remember is my daughter, my oldest daughter, waking me up, screaming and crying and waking me up. And, she was shaking me. And I finally woke up and she was crying, like, Mom, you wouldn't wake up. You wouldn't wake up. When I woke up, the house was full of smoke. And I'm in the bed. So the house is full of black smoke. And I look down at the bed that I'm laying in, and there's fire all around me. Now, when I say fire, I don't mean like flames, like roaring flames coming up, but like a smoldering fire, kind of like a barbecue grill, kind of like, the coals on the barbecue grill smolder. It was like that. So I'm laying in this burning bed, basically. And when I got out of it after waking up and realizing like, oh my God, I thought the house was on fire. And I look at the bed and it's the actual bed, and it dawned on me, girl, you fell asleep while you was smoking that cigarette. So I hopped out of the bed, y'all, and I promise you, when I looked down at the bed, there was a whole silhouette of my body, like an outline of my body in that bed where I was laying, and around the rest was a smoldering fire. I got out thinking, oh my God, I had got to be burned somewhere. I didn't have a scratch, a burn, nothing. There was absolutely no wounds on my body anywhere, considering that I was just sleeping in a burning bed. Now, I want y'all to ponder on that for a minute. Like, how is that even possible? That I didn't get burnt, my clothes weren't burnt, there was nothing on me burnt. It was an entire silhouette in that bed from my body. And to this day, I think back on that like, what was that? That was nothing but God. And when I say that and relate it to the story of Daniel, it's because Daniel and his three friends never lost their faith. They never stopped believing in God. They never stopped trusting that he would deliver them from whatever was going on in that prison while they were imprisoned in Babylon. They never lost their faith, and they never wavered in it. They continued to believe what they believed in, and they weren't going to let anybody tell them different, even if it meant that it would lead to their own demise. So all my life, I've always believed in God. I've never not believed in God. Through everything that I've been through, I've never once said or never once cursed God. I've always believed in him. And I've never lost my faith. Now, there would be times when, of course, I was doing things I had no business doing out here, smoking and drinking and doing all those type of things, fornicating, and just a lot of things that you're not supposed to be doing. If you're trying to walk in the life of God. Well, at that time, I was just kind of doing whatever, I hadn't surrendered or turned my life over to God or anything like that. Hadn't even thought about it. And even though I, was living a worldly life, so to speak, God still had favor in me. He never left me. God has had favor over my life, my entire life. When I look back at some of the things that I've gone through, and I'm going to share some of the experiences and things that I've gone through in my life, and when you break it down, there's no other explanation other than God. Because me laying in that burning bed, I should have been burnt up. I should have died that day. I shouldn't even been here. And there's a lot of situations in my life where I feel like I shouldn't have been here. I should not be sitting here right now doing this. Doing this video. I shouldn't be. Just simply based off some of the things that I've gone through in my life. But God spared me because, like I said, He has favor on my life. And I've had it pretty hard. I haven't had an easy life, I would say, but I've always persevered. I've had an extreme amount of endurance. And like I said in a previous video, supernatural strength. Like there's nothing that could stop me no matter what was going on in my life. I always pushed forward and kept going. And when God sees a person that is struggling in their life like that, you're building up anointment. Every time you go through a struggle and come through it and don't give up and don't curse God, don't say, oh God, why me? Why this happening to me? And you still believe and you still have faith and you still pray, even though things are falling apart around you. Because see, a lot of the things that we do in our life, it's our own fault. We bring a lot of our circumstances on ourselves. And so God sometimes He'll place you in circumstances as well, but sometimes He's going to let you walk through the fire. He going to let you walk through the fire and He going to pull you out of it. Now, sometimes you might come out with a couple of scratches and a couple of burns or this, that, or the other. However, the important thing is to never lose faith. Is to never stop believing, never stop trusting, never stop thinking that it's going to be better, because it will. It will. Now, and like I said, I've gone through so much in my life, y'all. But this particular incident really stands out in my mind when we talk about favor with the Lord, because that is nothing but favor. God pulled me out of that bed without a burn, without a scratch. And when I tell you that smoke almost had me, because my daughter was hysterical, saying that I wouldn't wake up. Like, oh my God, it took me so long for you to wake up. They were safe and sound in their room because the doors, how the apartment was set up, there was like an adjoining bathroom to the bedrooms, which both doors were closed off, and every other door that led to their bedroom was closed off. So there was absolutely no smoke in their room at all, like none at all. And the only thing that woke my daughter up was the fact that the smoke alarm kept going off. It kept going off. And she said at first she just thought I was in there cooking, because I would do that sometimes at night. And she thought it was that, but then it just kept going off. So she felt compelled to get up and see what was going on. And thank God she did, because that smoke would have taken me over and probably, probably would have taken me out of here, y'all. God eventually probably would have woken me out of that bed. I'm gonna assume that. I'm gonna think that's what would have happened. However, she came in and woke me up. Took her a long time to wake me up. And got me out of that burning bed. And I just look back at that situation like, oh my God. And when things like that happen in your life, you have no choice but to believe. You can't come up with some worldly explanation as to how that happened. You can't. You can't. I should have been burned somewhere. My clothing should have caught on fire or something. Somewhere should have something. I should have come out of that situation with some type of wounds, and I didn't. God delivered me from that situation. He delivered me from that, you guys, and he has delivered me from a whole lot of situations in my life. I mean, situations that I should not have made it through. There's been times. Oh my goodness, there's been times where I've been on rock bottom and didn't know, where our next meal was going to come from, or, how I was going to pay this bill or how I was going to pay that bill. And all of a sudden, something will happen. Somebody will show up with some money, or I'll get a booking for hair because I used to do hair, y'all. So, God has always had favor on me. He's always made a way for me no matter what. And I'm not saying that I didn't struggle, because I just sat here and said that, life was a struggle for me at some point. I had 3 daughters, and I was raising them alone, and I'm not bashing nobody. I'm just saying that's what it was. So, yeah, God will deliver you out of situations. And like I was saying before, sometimes he'll place you in situations to tempt you, just to see what you're going to do, how you're going to react, especially if you're calling on him in a particular situation when you need him. And now that he's helped you, now you turn your back on him. So he's going to tempt you and see if you are actually being true to him. And yeah. So that's my story today, guys. And like I said, I relate that to the book of Daniel. For those who have not read that book, I would suggest you go open that book. Just open the Bible in general. If it's not something that you practice a lot, just start practicing. Try to read a chapter a day. The Bible can be overwhelming because it's written in Greek and Hebrew, and some of it in Aramaic. I think I'm saying that right. And it's not like our language, so it can be challenging to read and comprehend. However, if you stick to it, it does get easier to read. And there's other ways you can go about understanding it too. You can look up explanations for certain books, like on YouTube or online or whatever. And there's also animated versions of it. If you're that type of learner where you actually need to see it, then there's different ways to learn the Bible. Don't use excuses and say, I can't do it, it's too hard to read, I don't understand it. That's just an excuse, and just like anything, gets easier the more time you put into it. But yeah, guys, that's my story today. And I just wanted to spread a quick word of deliverance and favor. And you'd be surprised the favor God has on your life once you apply yourself to him. You would be surprised. You would be surprised, guys. We're not supposed to struggle. We're not supposed to be out here, living the type of lives that we live. We ain't supposed to be robbing Peter to pay Paul, and and those types of things. We're supposed to live prosperous lives. But you have to follow God in order to reap whatever benefits he has for you. And your benefits going to look different from my benefits. Your purpose will look different from my purpose. So in order to figure out what your purpose is, seek God. Try God. All right, you guys?